Tonight, on a very special edition of Those Video Guys, we look at two web series made especially for children, eScape and Ruby Skye PI, plus the top 5 pugs and Elisar reviews, a very important film for the internet, only on Those Video Guys. Hello, the internet. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, across the world and across, of course, the World Wide Web. My name is John. I'm alongside my good friend Elisar.
Hello.
Sean in absentia, unfortunately, this week. Yeah. But together, Elisar and myself, we are Those Video Guys. And what a show we have got for you this week, because, guys, it's a special themed show. We are looking at some web series made especially for children. Kids TV. It's a Kids TV special. And I'm sure along the way, we are going to have a lot of fun reminiscences of TV shows from our own
well, we've already had some tweets from people saying what their favourite kids shows are.
Absolutely. We've just put out we've asked people to tweet us their favourite shows. One for Reboot, a show that I personally have never heard of. Elise Morgan has tweeted Reboot. Are you familiar with that show?
It was I'm sure it was a British animated kids series. But I think it was like one of the first one, which was like all done as CGI animation. In
the 80s? That can't be.
I think probably the 90s.
Really? Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
it's quite revolutionary. For
I bet it was.
Nowadays, you think, oh, that's a bit funny. Looking.
Yeah,
I'm sure. Then it was quite revolutionary.
I'm sure it was state of the art. But then, if you remember the video for Dire Straits' "Money for Nothing" at the time, that was the most exciting thing that anyone had ever seen. And now,
graphics.
Yeah, and now it would put a Commodore 64 to shame, I think. Guys, it's your show as much as it is ours, of course. Be sure you can tweet us throughout the night at Those Video Guys. Be sure to follow us on Twitter. We'll follow you right back. If you're watching us on YouTube, you can leave a comment. We've got the chat room open, I think, although we've only got one laptop this evening. But if you're on Ustream, please put comments down on the chat room, and we will get to them as soon as we can. And what else have we got to like us on Facebook? Like us on Facebook. But guys, like I say, it is an interactive show. It's every bit your show as much as ours. So please feel free to chip in, and we will get to you as soon as we can. Sean, sadly, has got work commitments, I think, this evening in the real world. But we hope to have him back in a couple of weeks' time. Is that correct?
Yes, he will.
Sean will be back very soon. But for now, it's Elisar and myself. And indeed, for now, it is Elisar, because before we get to the kids' theme, Elisar, a couple of months ago, you went to Cannes Film Festival.
Well, no, we're talking way back in February, the Berlin Film Festival.
The Berlin Film Festival, of course.
And just released last week in British cinemas on the 17th of June is a film called Life in a Day, which is released in the US on the 24th of July. So it's an American film. Well, actually, it's not really an American film. It's a global film.
It's a global film.
But it's rare for us to get a film before it gets released in the US, isn't it?
Absolutely. Well, would you do us the honour of telling us the name of the film?
So, Life in a Day. If you're on the internet, on YouTube, you've probably heard of this film.
You might even be in it. You might even be in it.
Life in a Day. I will show you the trailer, but it's I'm going to tell you some facts and figures on it. But this is the trailer for Life in a Day.
Good morning, everyone.
Should we start again, or is it just carry on?
We're back. I think we should be back.
I mean, should we start again?
fuck is that?
The ad, I guess. The advert.
Oh. The advert. Okay. I think we're on. Volume is on. Okay. I think the new stream advert is about to finish. Okay.
Hang on. Hello, the internet. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, across the world and, of course, across the World Wide Web. My name is John. I'm alongside Elisar, and together we are Those Video Guys. And it is a very special episode. Tonight, on a very special episode of Those Video Guys, a kids' TV special. We're going to be looking at two of the web series that have been made, especially for the younger internet viewer. Plus, of course, we've got the Bitley's Top 5, a Pugs special. One for all the dogs lovers out there, of which I'm afraid I'm not one. I'm very firmly a cat person, but we'll have that.
You can like both dogs and cats.
You
Why
can.
Be one or the other.
Well, I don't know. You can, but I don't. And I'm sure we'll have this debate again and again. Certainly we'll have it later in the show. But as I say, it's a kids' TV special. Be sure to tweet us throughout the night at Those Video Guys. Tell us your favourite kids' TV show. We just had a couple of tweets in. Dealership Show has said amongst his favourite TV shows were today's special, Brave Star, He-Man, 3-2-1, and Contact. Is that 3-2-1 the quiz show with Ted?
No, I'm sure it's not.
You don't think so? Because that's just started again on Challenge TV. I watch it every Saturday afternoon. That really takes me back to my youth. But we had a couple of other.
I don't know what today's special is. Brave Star, I remember. That was like the Space Cowboy, I think.
And He-Man was the must-have toy of the season when I was a kid.
I mean, you can't have escaped He-Man. There's no way.
You can't have escaped He-Man, indeed. And of course, She-Ra. We had a couple of other tweets as well.
Elise Morgan.
Elise Morgan has said Reboot comes to mind. Not one I'm personally familiar with, but
it was I think it was in the 1990s. It was a British, but one of the very first ever like full-on CGI only cartoons.
Wow.
So it was quite revolutionary for us.
And we're talking, what, late 80s, early 90s? Early 90s.
Yeah.
That must have been pretty special. I'm guessing it probably hasn't aged amazingly well.
It would have looked completely different to anything you would have seen at the time, yeah.
Wow. So, Reboot, not one I'm familiar with, but I will YouTube that later. And Pointless Chic has tweeted us the Mickey Mouse Club. I'm not sure.
With,
Britney Spears, Justin Timberlake, certainly a breeding ground.
Yeah.
A breeding ground for a certain type of American celebrity. And again, these tweets are coming in, so keep them coming throughout the night. It's a kids special. We've got two web series catering for children, eScape, and Ruby Skye PI. Before we get to that though, Elisar, I know a couple of months ago you were at the Berlin Film Festival.
The Berlin Film Festival
and you saw a film, Life in a Day.
Life in a Day. It just came out in the cinemas here in the UK, and it comes out in the cinemas in the US on the 24th of July. So we're getting ahead of the US.
Which is a rare change. Yeah.
And the reason why I think we should talk about it is because it is the YouTube movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's the first film in the cinemas made entirely from YouTube.
Yeah.
Here's the poster. We're not going to show the trailer because last time we had.
It killed Wirecast. It killed Wirecast. So you can imagine.
But you can find the trailer on youtube.com/life in a day.
You might even be in it. Who knows? If you submitted a tell us the.
It's a 95-minute film, and YouTube put out a call on their website saying, "Send us your video about your life, but it has to be shot on the 24th of July, 2010."
Right, okay.
So it can only been shot on that day and then uploaded to YouTube.
Was there any particular significance to that date? Or that was just
that was the date that was just picked.
Chosen, okay.
80,000 people sent in videos.
Wow.
From 140 countries.
Yeah.
And Kevin MacDonald, who's a very well-known documentary director here in the UK, did Touching the Void. Did you ever see that film?
I didn't, but I have heard of it.
He had the pleasure, along with Ridley Scott, of taking 4,500 hours of YouTube clips.
Wow.
And making a 95-minute movie.
I thought we had it rough when we have to watch like a whole web series in one night, but that really takes it to a new level.
It's 140 countries submitted stuff, so you can imagine the diversity that you get.
140 countries, 80,000 people, you
Absolutely.
said. So yeah.
And actually, what was very interesting is they said the amount of submissions they got from the UK was very low.
Yeah.
Very, very low, which is surprising.
Well, I don't know, because I mean, I regularly use YouTube, but I didn't know anything about it, and I also would say I probably never ever go on the front page.
But then you had people sending in videos in from parts of Africa who probably are on YouTube far less than we are.
Yeah, you're right. It's an odd one, but maybe because they're, well, this is going to sound a little bit ignorant, but perhaps because they don't use it so much, they will just go to youtube.com, the front page, and they'll see all of that stuff.
Maybe they've just got more interesting things to say.
Maybe they have.
I think that is the beauty of the film. It's rich in its diversity. I mean, it literally is. There's voices of different people from all over the world over the course of the day. It's done slightly narratively as well. You know, it's like it starts off with morning breaking. People, in that time zone, and it sort of goes through around the world towards and ending with night times. It's been edited in a narrative way. It's beautiful. It's beautiful.
Well, is it
very touching?
I was going to say, is it beautiful? How do these videos look on the big screen?
They vary. They vary in quality, absolutely, because they've been shot on so many different types of cameras. I mean, there was obviously some people slightly more professional with their Canon DSLRs, but others on just sort of handy cams, and it does look like that. So seeing that on a big screen can be quite off-putting because it does change in varying qualities. But
and aspect ratios.
They've
sort of
created
sorted out
a single aspect ratio for the whole lot, but you forgive it because you are hearing different voices from different parts of the world, voices that you would never normally hear at all. And there are moments that are very sad. There are moments that are very funny. You feel all sorts of emotions. There are a handful of people that they follow throughout the film, so that they can't, you don't just have the one clip of them. They come back to them, and so they are telling a bit of a story.
So there's a few arcs throughout the show.
Yeah.
What I want to ask you then, Elisar, I mean, it sounds very worthy, and maybe people such as you and me who have got an interest in this kind of thing would go and see it. Do you think it's got wide appeal, mass appeal, mainstream potential?
You'd like to hope. It probably doesn't, but then, like I said, it's the YouTube film, and people are on YouTube listening to other people's voices. I mean, the amount of vloggers you have, for instance, people just talking about themselves and what they did that day, and people just watching it. So if you'd watch it on YouTube, could you possibly watch it on the big screen? I would like to think so, especially because the people you're seeing in the movie aren't necessarily the attention seekers you might get on YouTube normally. Yeah,
well, it does sound fascinating, and I'd love to check it out. Can you actually watch it on YouTube?
I think it's been on YouTube, but not yet. I'm sure it will be on YouTube later. National Geographic are releasing it in the US, and that seems quite appropriate because it is National Geographic, the movie. It really is. Yeah. It has that feeling of it. It makes you feel like you're not just isolated. You are part of a world citizen, and that's. And I would recommend it. So please, go and see Life in a Day. Go and support it. In the UK, part of your ticket, if you purchase it online, I think they give part of that money to charity as well. Really? Okay. So it's a worthwhile film and a worthy piece of art, if not necessarily the next summer blockbuster. Indeed, it's a beautiful movie, regardless of the fact that it's a YouTube generated film. It's just beautiful, and I would recommend it wholeheartedly. Good. Well, I honestly look forward to checking that out. I'm sure that'll be out in London, if not necessarily. It's out now. You can see it. If you're in the UK, you can see it now. It's in the cinemas. It's in all. It's got a general release. It's got a general release. Wow. Okay. Great. And in the US, you can look forward to it on July the 24th, which marks the anniversary of the film, I suppose. Exactly, 1 year.
Yeah.
After all the people recorded those.
So,
yeah.
great.
You might cry, you might laugh. You'll do all of those probably.
You'll do all of those things, but try and keep it, fairly quiet if you're in the cinema, because think of other patrons as well. But Elisar, thank you so much for that review of the film. I can't wait to check it out. But as I said at the beginning of the episode, it's tonight on a very special episode of Those Video Guys. It's a kids' TV special. I wouldn't have known it before we'd even started the show, but there are actually a few, not a load, but a few web series that have been made for children with kids in mind.
Indeed. Well, way back when we first started, we reviewed Mind's Eye. Do you remember that one, the fantasy web series?
Off the top of my head, I'm afraid not.
There was characters that kind of looked like the shadow creatures in Lord of the Rings, little black cloaks.
Okay.
So we have, but we haven't really touched. Other than that, we reviewed. I think there was the horror teen web series Throwing Stones.
Mm-hmm.
We haven't really touched upon the subject at all properly.
Yeah.
And it's I guess it's all about trying to find the product, but it is out there, and we've found two
examples of the genre. Two examples of the genre.
And Ruby Skye.
And the first one we're going to take a look at is eScape. There's 3 seasons to the show. Currently midway through season 3. About a dozen 8-minute or so episodes per season. So check them out. EscapeTheSeries.com, and all of them are up on YouTube. Have we got a trailer?
We have got a trailer, and let's hope it doesn't crash my car.
Absolutely. What the heck was that?
What the hell is that? Okay, live. And live, okay. Okay.
Fellas, we can only apologise for that. It looks like we're going to have a few issues with clips tonight,
It's
we're going to
it's a shame.
we're going to cull them.
We're
We're
gonna
going to
have
cull
to
them. No clips. You can imagine what the shows might be like.
This does affect us doing the top 5 then, I think.
Well, we can talk about the dogs. We'll get to that
I
anyway.
think we'll save them for next week. So
Really?
I think we'll have to, because if we're having problems, we'll have to sort out what the problem is on the clips.
Maybe. Yeah, I suppose you're right.
If we did the top 5, it's no point doing a top 5 without the clips.
Elisar, it's not a problem because we've got a lot to say about kids' TV shows, including the first series we were looking at, eScape. 3 seasons, currently, as I said, midway through season 3. 6 episodes in the first season and 10 in the second and third. It's EscapeTheSeries.com, basically a sci-fi mystery about a group of kids who discover they are trapped inside a video game. Although you wouldn't know it to look at it. It's not based inside a video game. A lot of it is sort of,
indeed,
out and about in the forest and on boats. And
the first series of, I think it's 6 episodes, and the second series is 10, and the third series will be 10. The first series is really the kids. They're in the forest, and it starts off really more like a mystery. How did they get there? They don't understand. They find their parents' car, and slowly they discover things. They discover a computer in the middle of this forest which actually works without having been plugged in.
Mm.
And then that's when they start working out the clues, and one of them works out they're actually inside this video game.
Which I think was... Actually, I don't know how much we can say, but was it created by one of their fathers or something?
Created by one of their fathers,
yeah.
Yes. And so they've all been sucked in, and so the question is, how are they going to get out?
Now, for me, this was a really good, fun show. Obviously, like we say, it's aimed at kids. It's starring kids.
It is. It stars kids.
But,
Absolutely.
you know, it's absolutely suitable for what I like to say, kids of all ages. It put me in mind of, in the 80s, we had a lot of sort of shows quite like this. British and Australian kids' TV in particular had... there were a lot of sort of shows where basically, for whatever reason, the adults were sort of wiped out at the beginning, and it leaves a bunch of kids to fend for themselves in the wild, in the sea, whatever. There's just a whole heap of shows like that they just don't make anymore. And this was a real throwback to those days for me. So I got a kick out of it for that reason. What were your thoughts towards that?
Yeah, I can understand what you're saying. I mean, it took me a while to get into it. I actually think out of the series that we've reviewed, the episodes were quite long for a kids series, for a kids web series. I mean, some of the episodes are like 10, 12 minutes long, which is surprising, actually.
Yeah.
So if you're aiming at kids, you're probably thinking more... But then I admire them for actually...
having the guts to
do that, really,
yeah.
Because that's quite a brave decision. And the fact that they're actually now in their third series means it's actually paid off.
Well, hopefully, yeah. I mean, I hope so.
The first series is really just about this group of kids, in the woods. It's the second series where it sort of really kicks in, and you actually break out from that location, and you've got the adults, the parents, the creators of the video games, and you start discovering who the real bad guys are, who the people who've trapped them. But for me, it just took a bit of. It took me. I need to get into it a bit more.
I do understand. I mean, the thing is, for us, obviously, we try and watch them all in one go, and that's maybe not how they're meant to be watched.
No, indeed, that's true.
And I like to think that a kid who is suitably sort of engrossed in a story will stick with something for 10 minutes, and maybe stick with it for longer and want to see the next episode
and I'm sure
and the one after that.
Kids want to see other kids as well on screen, and it gives them that.
I mean, we spoke about this a little bit before the show, but there isn't kids' TV like this anymore, in our country at least. And I don't think there's much of it in the US either. I mean, when I was a kid, like I say, there was a lot of money in kids' drama and TV shows. And I don't mean like cartoons, I don't mean ones plugging toys, sort of the Marvel
series,
Transformers live-action cartoon half hour. I mean like proper, artistically relevant dramas. And... They just don't exist anymore. After about 5 or 6 years ago, the government made a law in the UK basically banning advertising towards kids during kids' TV, and pretty much ITV1 just shut up shop and stopped making them.
Absolutely, it did.
Nowadays, we've got a few kids' TV special channels, but even on those shows, there's not much original content. There's a lot of reruns and a lot of sort of imported cheap cartoons, but very little in the way of actual quality drama made for kids. And I think this was a step in the right direction. I'm not saying it's the perfect show, but it's something I think kids coming up today could use, and they're not getting it from TV, so why not go to the internet?
No, absolutely. I think you're absolutely right. They're not getting it from television, and the internet is the best place for them to watch that stuff. And I guess it's more of a case than trying to reach out to those kids and letting them know that these series do exist, and how are they supposed to find them. I don't know what the answer to that is. Maybe because eScape is on YouTube. It's also on Mingle Media. Mingle Media, I think, is aimed more at a sort of upmarket female audience.
Right. Okay.
Hopefully, they get their kids to watch the show, but maybe there needs to be a platform like a Coldcast just for kids.
For kids, yeah. Perhaps there does, perhaps there doesn't, because kids are good at finding stuff. I mean, the internet isn't an exclusive place. Within certain reason, anyone can go anywhere, and I think kids will seek out and find what they want to watch, and I hope this will be the kind of thing that some kids, enough kids, will want to watch. One of the things that appealed to me about it, and this might sound a little bit derisory, but I don't mean it to, is that it wasn't full of, the beautiful people. It just seemed like normal kids who were reasonable actors, just getting along with the show.
Sure.
And some of them were sort of outcasts, and they weren't all.
No,
they didn't all have perfect lives and loads of money.
I hadn't actually thought of that, but you're absolutely spot on that.
So I would hope that a lot of kids can relate to this kind of thing. Unlike, like I say, a lot of the American shows certainly that are made today, it's all, Hannah Montana and
very glossy,
Josie and the Pussycats. Exactly, yeah.
Can do whatever they
the
want.
Charmed Life.
Create their own music videos as well. Yes. No,
exactly, yeah.
Spot on. Good observation.
So, thank you. So for me, eScape, I can't hesitate but to give it a cheers.
Well, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it.
Cheers to eScape. And like we say, you can check it out at escapetheseries.com or youtube.com/escapetheseries, or I believe, as you said, on Mingle Media, a platform apparently for women on the internet. Who knew? There we go. So we're going to skip past the top 5, which is fine. We'll bring it to you.
We'll bring that top 5
next week.
Yes.
I like to think it's a cat conspiracy. They didn't want to see the pugs, and so they did something to Wirecast. But we'll bring you the top 5 pugs next week. So let's move on to our second kids TV series on the internet, Ruby Skye PI.
Well, Ruby Skye PI is a series of 12 episodes, and it's about a character called Ruby Skye, obviously. She's a 14 or 15-year-old girl at high school, obviously. But she has this compulsion to try and investigate mysteries. There's always a mystery somewhere. And this particular story of this series is people at the school, people she knows, have been receiving those email scams that we all get on our inbox from a Nigerian prince saying,
send no money, send your bank details, send us $5,000, we'll send you $1 million,
exactly,
and
all that kind of stuff. So
for a small administration
people
fee.
That Ruby Skye knows are getting sucked in by this scam, but she doesn't suspect that it is a Nigerian scammer. Actually, the person responsible is right there in her town.
And we can say no more about. We'll say no more than that, because presumably over the course of the season, you follow various clues.
I really enjoyed this one.
You got into this one.
I enjoyed this one a lot.
Okay, and would you care to say why it appealed to you?
I'll tell you why. If a web series is about doing short form drama, it ticked that box. The episodes are 4 or 5 minutes long. So if you're appealing to that young, they call it the tween audience, between about 10 and about 13, 14 years old, short attention spans, keep it short, that's perfect, If the internet and web TV is all about sort of vloggers as well, where people are talking directly to camera and talking about their lives, well, they've integrated that style into the drama of the show. Because Ruby Skye, even though it's a drama, it's a scripted drama, and she's out there investigating, you follow it as a drama, you would, a normal drama, she breaks the fourth wall and speaks directly to camera about what's going on, her thought processes, what it is that she's trying to investigate, how she's come to certain conclusions. And even starts some of the episodes as almost like a vlog style in her bedroom, talking directly to camera. So it ticks that kind of box as well.
Okay.
And it's well produced. It actually looks like something you would see
on kids' TV. On kids' TV, yeah.
It's got very high production value.
It certainly does. And
the actress, what's her name? Madison Chiatow, I hope that's pronounced correctly.
I think that's right. Yeah.
Is a fantastic actress as well, and she really has the charisma to hold together really what is a series purely based around her and her character.
I see. So she's sort of like the Clarissa Explains All of the show.
Yes, exactly.
She's a young Melissa Joan Hart, maybe. Indeed, in the making.
Yeah, no, sure.
Good. I have to say, Clarissa Explains All, by the way, that was a show that fell off a cliff very quickly for me. I fell in love with that show before even the first episode opening credits had rolled. Yeah. Clarissa comes on and goes, "Hi, I'm Clarissa Explains All. I'm like 14 years old. My favourite band in the world are They Might Be Giants, which are also my favourite band." And I thought, I'm going to have a lot of...
It's an unusual choice for a 14-year-old.
It is. It was bizarre. And I thought, I'm going to have a great time with this show. And then the opening credits ran, and she just never mentioned them again. They never appeared in the show. They never played their music. And it was pretty much run-of-the-mill show. Unlike Ruby Skye PI, which, as you say, has a lot of unique or new and original twists on kids' TV.
It does.
Because it's kids' TV, but it's not kids' TV that couldn't get it on TV. It's kids' TV that is made for the web.
But I would say it's more than kids' TV. I would say this is actually family TV. because I think parents can watch this with their kids as well and actually enjoy it as well as adults, which I didn't have the same feeling with eScape, which I felt was a kids show, really aimed just at kids. But Ruby Skye, I think, was just a bit more broader than that. I think adults can sit there and watch it and enjoy it with their kids.
Okay, I mean, I think I liked eScape better because it wasn't for adults, it was for kids, and it's something I think a kid could get lost in. But like you say, Ruby Skye is something a family can enjoy together and not have to worry about, inappropriate language or, sort of risque storylines or whatever. So that's, that ticks those boxes. Like you say, it's broad family viewing.
Indeed. And for all the reasons that I gave earlier, the high production value, the great acting from the lead actor, the breaking the fourth wall vlog style moments of it as a drama series. I actually think it's just one of the best looking, best produced web series that I've actually reviewed on the show.
Of anything, not just for kids.
Not just for
wow.
Anything.
Well, that's quite high praise, Elisar. That's pretty interesting.
I'm actually happy to say that.
Well, I'm glad you're saying. Because I've just actually looked on our Twitter page, and Ruby Skye PI is actually tweeting us. She said she disagreed that episodes for kids have to be short. I think that's in reference to what you said about eScape. She says kids will watch anything as long as you keep them entertained.
Indeed.
Which I would certainly like to believe.
Yeah.
But great. Well, Ruby Skye, we're glad you're watching the show. We hope you haven't suffered through too many technical hitches. Ruby Skye PI. What more can you say? Ruby Skye PI or Magnum PI? Which do you prefer? I bet you weren't expecting that one. No. Of course, Ruby Skye PI. Let us give us some cheers then, and then we'll go back to Twitter and see what's going on.
Cheers.
Cheers to Ruby Skye PI.
I think it's a perfect web series.
Wow. Well, that's nothing to be sneezed at. The perfect web series, Ruby Skye PI. You can put that on your website and attribute it to those video guys. The perfect web series. If you ever make posters or if it ever comes out on DVD, we want to be on the back sleeve of that. You can put our photo on. That'll be great. But all kidding aside, it is a great show, and we thoroughly recommend you check it out. The vids are on YouTube. .com/Ruby Skye with an E PI, Ruby Skye PI, or indeed just RubySkyePI.com. And I think we'll tweet those and put them up on our blog later as well, all the links to that. Indeed, yeah. So you can have a look at that. So we've had some more tweets in as well about favourite kids TV series. We've had a bit more information about 321 Contact. In England, where I live, 321 was a very old-fashioned Saturday afternoon variety / quiz show.
Terrible.
But well, it's not without its charms. Where the booby prize was a dustbin, which is
trash can.
Well, a trash can, as the Americans might say. Yeah.
Yes. But if you lost the show, you would actually win a trash can.
Yeah, indeed. But it had a sort of notoriety. But apparently 321 Contact was a fun kids show on PBS, which was fun and educational as well.
Okay.
We had a couple of tweets saying that vampire drama Blood and Bone China was their favourite show. I think they might have missed...
Is that Rachel Liz?
Rachel Liz. I think she might have misunderstood the concept of kids' TV show there. But,
well, no, I think she was talking about web series in general.
I see, okay. But we want to know what your favourite kids' TV show... Mike G. Lancey says the Banana Splits are their favourite. Yeah.
That was great. I've got some over here on YouTube.
Brad Wyman.
Jill 380... going back to your comments about the kids shows of the 80s, says, I remember those kids shows from the 80s and they were great.
They really were. Good stuff.
Hibbs Wyman says 321 Contact is awesome. And also mentions two other shows, Electric Company and Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Well, Pee-wee's Playhouse, Pee-wee Herman, I think, is still... Oh, well, I hadn't even thought of that, but that's...
we got our own Pee-wee here.
Well, maybe. He's still going strong today. He's still very, very popular amongst, kids and adults of a certain age or background.
Sean Harry, hello.
Sean is in the... he's in the chat room.
Says,
and he fondly...
Veronica Mars.
Well, I think that was either before or after my time. I'm not quite sure about Veronica Mars.
And Sean Harry also says, I want to do Talking Clarissa Explains It All.
Well, we'll have to see. The more we think about it, I was going to say, the more I think about it, the more mileage I think there might be in Talking Alf. Because I forgot there's actually a book as well written by one of the writers called Permanent Midnight, where he talks about how basically working on Alf sent him down a spiral of drug addiction and alcohol abuse, and how it wasn't all as fun as it looked. So maybe we'll discuss that book as well when we do the
Lisa
inevitable.
666 says Jamie and the Magic Torch.
Of course, yeah, that's another one, and Sesame Street as well. Which again, Sesame Street,
yes.
Another one of those shows that just absolutely transcends the generations. A show that I think that lasted 40 odd years, and pretty much anyone who was anyone. It's still going today.
It's still
yeah,
going. And actually, I think they've done an agreement to do like the first Sesame Street for China or something.
Really? Wow. And the great thing about Sesame Street as well, the live music performances are absolutely fantastic. There's if you go to YouTube and search for Stevie Wonder on Sesame Street, and he just does a phenomenal version of Superstition with a full live band and some puppets, and it's just incredible. It's like as good a live version of that song as you will ever see. And then more recently, of course, Russell Brand's wife Katy Perry was in a bit of trouble because she filmed a song for Sesame Street, Dancing with Elmo. I don't know if you saw this, and a few killjoy adults complained that her dress was far too low cut, and the show was never repeated, and the clips were pulled down from YouTube as well. But the
kids have seen that anyway.
The kids have seen it. It's all on the internet.
They've seen it on the music videos anyway.
Indeed, and
she has that music video where she's got cream coming out of her bra.
Indeed, and worse, I'm sure. and I thought it was perfectly innocent. Genuinely, I thought that was perfectly innocent as well, and a nice version of that song. In fact, I'm sure you can find that somewhere on YouTube. So there's some great. What I'm trying to say is Sesame Street has lasted since the beginning of time, and anyone who's anyone has performed their music on that, and there are some great performances on that. Again, what I'm trying to say, I love kids TV, and it's not just for kids. That's pretty much the point of tonight's show. I think we've had a few more tweets in as well.
Yeah.
Let's have a look out here. IMTD Release is in agreement with you that Ruby Skye PI is the perfect web series.
It's limited, I think, limited release.
Yeah. And a few more kind words for
limited
for
release. Do a podcast. LMTD. Their Twitter's at LMTD Release. They do a podcast about web series, much like us reviewing them. But they do it as a downloadable audio show. And in their most recent one, they talking about the independent filmmakers who are making independent movies versus independent web series. And they brought up the question of, if you're an independent filmmaker, you tend to be making the low budget movie that you tend to make would be a horror movie. But if you're an independent filmmaker doing a web series, you tend to make comedy. And as you know, we've reviewed a lot of comedies.
We have.
Not
all of it funny, mind. But
most web series do appear to be comedies.
Mm-hmm.
And they were asking the question, why is that? Why, if they're making a movie, they'll make a horror movie, but if they're making a web series, they'll make a comedy? And I've actually got two answers for that. It's the first answer is to do with distribution. If you're making an independent film, you want it to be as commercial as possible, and you want to be able to sell it to various different territories, because the way that the film makes its money back is by licensing rights. And to make a low budget movie, the most commercial genre you can make is a horror film. You've got more guarantee of being able to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason being is that it's not reliant on cast names. You don't have to have recognisable actors in it. You just have to present good horror. And whereas if you're making a web series, you might not necessarily have the budget for doing horror, because your budgets are even smaller than making an independent film. But what you can do is have a few people in
being
a sitcom
funny
style being funny, in which case you just spend more time on a script and making sure you're writing a funny script. But the other answer is, of course, is that horror films tend to be made by independent filmmakers, directors, producers, writers, whereas independent series, on the whole, are generally made, that we've come across, especially when it comes to the comedies, by actors. And so it's the actors are showcasing themselves as actors. Horror, you generally have characters are more two-dimensional, but if you're trying to make a funny series that people relate to, you want it to be a more three-dimensional character.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, from an actor's point of view, you want to make comedy. And so that's my answer to their
question. What was the question?
On
Who even remembers? Who even remembers what the question was now? Oh, Thank you for that, Elisar. We've been tweeted off the hook by Brad Wyman. He sent us about six tweets, and I'm still trying to make sense of them, to be honest with you. But Sesame Street Matt Robinson's dad from Global Soul TV was the original Gordon. Do you know who Gordon is?
Gordon? Which one was...
Presumably not Flash Gordon.
Gordon on Sesame Street?
I don't think there was a Gordon on Sesame Street. But Matt Robinson from Global Soul TV.
Yes.
His dad was the original Gordon in Sesame Street. There was a Gordon in Sesame Street. And Global Soul Matt Robinson's dad was him.
There you go.
Okay, thank you, Brad. We made sense of it eventually. Lovely. Any more texts? I think a few more people... well, of course, a few more people who knew that as well. And still suggestions coming in as well.
Jill380 says there was an Australian show named Girl from Tomorrow.
There was indeed. Like I was saying earlier, both England and Australia, for some reason... Well, not for some reason, but for a reason that I don't know of, were... just made some fantastic kids TV show in the 80s that I would say some of which have stood the test of time to this day. Round the Twist, of course, being another show made in Australia.
Sean Harry says, when I was 7, my favourite TV show was Saturday Night Double Bill of Horror.
Do you know what? I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised by that, really.
A 30s Universal horror film and a 60s Hammer horror film.
Why does that not surprise me?
Isn't that See, that's the other thing I remember watching as a kid, is all those old black and white horror movies from Universal, the Frankensteins and the Draculas. And actually, for kids, they may have been like for adults only back in the 30s, but they were sort of early morning TV movie fare by the time, of course, the 80s, 70s and 80s came around. I
guess, although I think I was still living quite a sheltered life as a kid.
It's a shame that kids won't watch old black and white.
Brad has clarified, dude, Gordon is the star of Sesame Street, and he's still in it today. He is, of course, the black lead, the old guy who looks after everyone there. So,
right, okay.
Gordon, and that is
I only remember
Matt Robinson's dad from Global Soul.
Muppets. I don't really remember the human characters.
Well, I sort of remember some of the human characters, but again, it dealt with... I know I've sort of been harping on about it tonight, but it's a subject dear to my own heart. But it deals with issues for kids, but also to do with adults as well. And there's an episode where one of the adults in real life, I think, had died, and the puppets come on and teach the kids about grief and counselling. And there's they deal with some genuine issues, and I think some of that is on YouTube as well. So I think if you, as morbid as it might sound, do a YouTube search for Sesame Street suicide, I think there's some really like moving and harrowing footage, and like I've sort of joked about a few times as well in the episode, a staple of American kids TV show as well is the phrase "tonight in a very special edition of," when you know that your favourite kids TV show might be dealing with a slightly more contentious issue. Who can forget the again, another thing that is on YouTube, historically fascinating, not something you might necessarily want to watch for pleasure, but the episode of what's the show with Brewster? What You Talking About, Willis? Growing Pains, I think. But the episode where and this is genuinely a kids' TV show, a paedophile moves into their block and starts grooming Webster.
Oh, really?
Seriously, yeah.
Wow.
I mean,
okay.
it's sort of quite subtle, but it's a genuine kids' TV show, and the guy sort of invites him around and sort of feeds him like sweets, and they play games, and then the games get a little bit more sort of adult in nature, and the kid becomes quite uncomfortable with it. And then, you know, they break the fourth wall and explain, look, if someone in your neighbourhood is sort of asking you to play these kind of games, then, you know, just get away from it. Yeah. So that's one of the great things about kids' TV. It's entertaining, but also educational, and deals with stuff that maybe kids aren't comfortable talking to their parents about, and maybe schools aren't equipped to teach as well.
Indeed, no, sure, yeah.
Well, guys, I think we've been talking 15 to the dozen. I know. Did you have a couple of points that you wanted to mention, or were they already?
That was my one about limited release with the horror versus the web series.
Well, Elisar, it's been a fantastic show. We've got to do it again soon.
Need to do more, yes.
We do need to have a look for more.
If you've got more suggestions for kids' web series that we should be looking at, let us know, because it's we haven't come across that many.
No, and I wonder if there are that many. Maybe there's a few more out there that we haven't come across, but we will have a look for them. But guys. My video of the week, I think, was eScape. Elisar, presumably Ruby Skye PI. Check out Life in a Day. It should be out in cinemas in the UK this week, and in the US next month, in a month's time. We'll be back next week. I should have my laptop back, so hopefully production values will improve ever so slightly. And from all of us here at Those Video Guys, good night. We will see you next time. Goodbye.